What's up, guys? It's Social Ham here again. It's been a while. It's a little busy, but I'm back making videos. Be a little more consistent this time. But anyway, we're going to be talking about Israel and Palestine. Obviously, this has been ongoing for about a week now, and it's a really important topic that everybody should be trying to get informed of. And I think this is the first time that a lot of people, especially here in the West, are actually taking attention to this conflict that's been going on for years. So, a little rundown of what happened. Essentially, Israel is having settlements in East Jerusalem. This is territory that the international community says, Israel, you can't have settlements here, and they still do it anyway. And they're doing this because they want to get rid of the Palestinians there, the Israeli government. Um, and before I talk more about this, I want to be very careful because a lot of people conflict the Israeli government with like Jews and Israelis. Not all Jews are horrible people. This, mostly the Israeli government that is doing all these atrocities and these war crimes. There are a lot of Jewish people, some in Israel, and a lot here that don't agree with the Israeli government. So, because I want to be clear on that because a lot of people, as soon as you criticize Israel for anything, it's like, oh, you're anti-Semitic. That's simply not true for a lot of people. Just because you criticize a government that happens to be mostly Jewish people doesn't mean you're anti-Semitic immediately. So, continuing from that, essentially, whoa, Biden. Anyway, continuing on that, Israel have settlements there. They're having Israelis move in there, and they are trying to illegally kick out the Palestinian people that live in these areas that they've been there already, living there for years. And Israel's plan is essentially, keep having Israelis move there. So eventually, it'll just be a bunch of Israelis there. There won't be that many Palestinians, and then you can go to a court and say, well, this is our land, so these Palestinians need to leave. That is essentially their plan. And so they were evicting this, and there were Palestinians who were protesting this, obviously very angry about this. They're being kicked out of their homes, places where they've lived for so long. And so during Ramadan, they were on the Al-Aqsa Mosque praying, a lot of Palestinians and other Muslims. It's the third holiest site in Israel. And the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Forces, went in and started just hitting people. They started throwing rubber bullets at people. They were throwing smoke grenades inside of the mosque, which is, super disrespectful, and there's no reason to do that. A lot of people like to bring up that, oh, there were Palestinians throwing rocks. So, if I throw a rock at the police officer, that doesn't give the police officer the right to like now tase me or shoot me in the face. If you're gonna if someone slaps you, slap them back. You don't just take out a knife and start, killing them. That's not how things work. So moving on from that, this is pretty recent. Israel has been combating Hamas. Hamas is the extremist group that fights back against Israel. They're Palestinians. They're made up of other sorts of groups, but they are terrorists, and everybody condemns Hamas. If you support Hamas, you're kind of fucked for that. There's really no reason to support Hamas. They are a terrorist organization. They don't really care about the Palestinian people that much. They simply want to attack Israelis, and a lot of them are anti-Semitic. And so Hamas has been firing rockets at Israel. Now, these are not some like high-tech missiles that Hamas is throwing. These are like homemade bombs, homemade rockets. Obviously still kill people, still bad, but Israel responds by leveling buildings, cities, and have no care in the world if they are going to kill civilians. And look at this number. So there were 2 Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, killed at least 43 Palestinians, including 8 children. So Israel doesn't care. If they know that there is one Hamas person in a building, they are going to level that building and they are going to destroy it. And they don't care if there are women, if there are innocent civilians, or if there are children in there. And about 50 others were injured. So right now, the death toll in Gaza, which is where the Palestinians are located, there's a total of 197 deaths. 58 of them at least are children and 34 are women. This is reprehensible. There's no reason for this to be going on. Israel keeps saying, the Israeli government and the IDF keeps mentioning, Hamas is in these buildings, terrorist organization, and they're using innocents as shields. Yeah, so don't blow up the building. If you have your child at a kindergarten and there happens to be a terrorist at the kindergarten and the police is like, well, we're gonna have to blow up the whole school, you'd probably be against that, right? Because you're gonna kill all those children. So I don't know why the Israeli government keeps saying like, oh, well, there's terrorists inside there and they're using the kids as meat shields. Like, okay, then don't kill them. Don't negotiate with the terrorists either, but find another solution. There's no reason to just level the whole building and kill a bunch of children and innocent civilians that had nothing to do with it. Um, and they're gonna keep doing this. There was also an Associated Press building. This is a news reporting website and company that had their offices in Gaza, and the Israeli government essentially said, "Oh, there are Hamas terrorists inside that building," and they gave a warning, and then they leveled the building. Um, a lot of people are saying that's really weird, as why are you attacking news reporters? For a lot of you that don't know, attacking news reporting or any sort of like media outlet is considered like a international crime. It's considered a war crime. And you can see here Rashida Tlaib, who's a House representative. She's actually of Palestinian descent. She says, Israel targeting media sources is so the world can't see Israel's war crime led by apartheid-in-chief Netanyahu, which is the Israel Prime Minister. And so the world can't see the killing of babies, children, and parents, so the world can't see Palestinians being massacred. And there you can see that they were giving a warning about that they're going to bomb the offices. And again, this is all illegal stuff Israel is doing. You can see here, Israel settlements currently exist in the Palestinian territory in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Syrian territory in the Golan Heights. This is all a violation of international law, lands occupied by Israel. So this is all like stuff no one agrees with in the international community. But obviously, the United States supports Israel, and therefore Israel doesn't get any flack for it, ever. Ever. They have never once been getting any trouble, any sort of like, hey, you should stop killing people, nothing. And I'm gonna show you a clip right now of kind of like what's going on of some Palestinians, their home being taken by an Israeli, and the Israeli couldn't care less. He's just like, well, if I don't steal your home, someone else's, so it's okay. So I'll let you watch that real quick.
Stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي. Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
It's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
So yeah, what a great guy, right? If I don't steal your home, someone else is gonna steal it, and if I leave, you're not gonna come back, so it doesn't matter. This is what's happening all around Sheikh Jarrah, which is that neighborhood that they were moving into, or that guy, settled in. I don't know why they're calling them settlements. It's literally just stealing someone's house. I can't imagine that happening in America if like some other government or group of people started doing that. Yeah, we'd kill them. We would kill them. But these Palestinian people can't attack. They can't do anything because as soon as they even put their finger on one of these Israeli people, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, will beat them, take them to prison, or possibly kill them. So they have no means of fighting back. And now I'm going to show you what Joe Biden had to say in response to what is going on in Israel and Palestine.
Are you concerned about the violence in the Middle East, and can you talk about what conversations you have had with officials there?
My national security staff and defense staff has been in constant contact with their counterparts in the Middle East, not just with the Israelis, but also with everyone from the Egyptians to the Saudis to the Emiratis, et cetera. And I had a conversation with Bibi Netanyahu not too long ago. I'll be putting out a statement very shortly on that. My expectation and hope is that this will be closing down sooner than later. But Israel has a right to defend itself when you have thousands of rockets flying into your territory.
So that's what Joe Biden had to say on the matter. obviously Israel does have a right to defend itself. But that doesn't mean that Palestine doesn't. I don't know why everyone always says Israel has the right to defend themselves. What about the Palestinians? Oh, well, if they defend themselves, then they're anti-Semitic or they're terrorists. That's not how it works. Also, Israel has the right to defend itself within, fair, level, appropriate response. If Hamas sends 100 rockets, send 100 back. Don't start killing innocent civilians. Actually target Hamas leaders and people who are in Hamas. And Israel is kind of screwing themselves over because the more they attack Hamas and the more they end up killing innocent people, the more Palestinians are going to be radicalized, saying, look at these Israelis killing innocent people, and now they're going to legitimize Hamas. And so a lot of people might now want to be a part of Hamas because they keep seeing that these Israelis are destroying their communities and killing their family members. So they really need to stop and just, don't kill innocent people. I can't believe something has to be said. Just don't. It's not that hard to not kill innocent people. And so if we go here as well, Hamas has actually asked for ceasefire, and a lot of the other neighboring Muslim countries have asked, hey, both sides stop. And Hamas was like, hey, we will offer a ceasefire. Local reports suggest Hamas has been offering some kind of ceasefire for several days, only to be rebuffed by Israel. Israel doesn't want to stop. They don't want a ceasefire. They want to keep killing Palestinians. They want to keep attacking and destroying these communities. They don't care. And so the UN, the United Nations, was like, okay, we're going to put out a statement saying that Israel, you need to stop, and that Hamas, Palestine, you need to stop, and put out a statement to find some resolution. But the U.S. blocked the statement. So as you don't know, most things that happen in the United Nations need to be unanimous, which means that everyone on the Security Council, everyone in the group needs to say yes or no to this particular thing. And so they were going to put out a statement, and according to several sources, 14 of the 15 members of the council were in favor of adopting a joint declaration aimed at reducing tension. And the U.S. says that a statement wouldn't help de-escalate, so they denied it. Essentially, again, reaffirming Israel as letting them just do whatever they want. So this is the problem. Israel keeps doing whatever they want. The U.S., we fund them, we give them a lot of our weapons, we give them so much money, and when they commit war crimes, international law being broken, literally killing innocent civilians, children and women, we just say, well, they have the right to defend themselves, and if you attack Israel, you're anti-Semitic. So yeah, this needs to stop, and hopefully, something soon happens, some resolution, hopefully a ceasefire, because if not, the killing's going to keep continuing, and it's going to be mostly Palestinians. So yeah, that's all I gotta say on that one.